Hi guys, in today's video we'll be going over defining what a joint is, identifying the types of joints, explaining how joints work, and also being able to label a synovial joint. So what is a joint? A joint is defined as where two or more bones meet. The function of the joint is to connect bones and create movement by the muscles contracting and relaxing and therefore pulling onto the joint to generate movement. There are multiple types of joints. First, we have fixed, where there's little movement. Example is a skull. Next, in partly movable, there's restricted movement between bones. An example is the vertebrae. In fully movable joints, there's a great range of movement. For example, the shoulder. Under fully movable, there are also several categories of joints. First, we have the ball and socket joint, where a full rotation of the limb is possible. This means that the limb bone over here would be able to rotate 360 degrees. An example of this is a shoulder and hip, which is why they're so easy to dislocate. Next, we have the hinge joint, where movement is able to occur in one plane. One plane means it can only move back and forth. An example of this is the elbow, knee, and fingers. Next, we have gliding and ellipsoidal joint. This is when several bones move across each other. This means that this bone over here and this bone would be able to glide across each other in order to generate movement. An example of this is the wrist and ankle. The range of motion for this would be between the hinge joint and the ball and socket joint. A pivot joint is when several movements occur from the specific arrangement. An example is the vertebrae. As you can see over here, this is one of the parts of the vertebrae which is able to move because of this arrangement. The arrangement of the spine is similar to this shape, and once one of the bones move, it then leads to a chain reaction where the other ones move too, which is how several movements occur from the specific arrangement of the spine. Now let's talk about the synovial joint. A characteristic that makes the synovial joint unique to other joints is that it's freely mobile and also contains a joint cavity. The joint cavity is this yellow area over here, which makes it special compared to other joints. Now let's move on to labeling this diagram. First, over here, as this is the center of the bone, this would be called the bone marrow. Next, over here, we'll label this as the femur, because this synovial joint in this diagram is of the knee joint, which means that the upper bone relative to the knee would be the femur. Next, this outer layer over here is a tough layer that protects the bone and is called the periosteum. Here, these little holes represent spongy bone, and this area over here, which cushions the bones, is called the cartilage. Over here would be the synovial fluid, since this is a synovial joint, and inside here is the fluid, which is what protects and cushions the bones. Next is the synovial membrane, which would just be the surrounding areas around the synovial fluid. And this connective tissue over here from bone to bone would be called the ligament. Now, the lower bone relative to the patella would be called the tibia, which is just the shin bone.